Have you ever been shut down or stifled by an invisible brake? And I don't mean brake, B-R-E-A-K. I mean a brake like the brakes on a car. We are going to talk about the impact of invisible brakes in your career, your life, and everything you do with Dr. Noah St. John. Dr. Noah, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Great to be here, Bridget.
So tell us more about this. What is this invisible brake that is wreaking havoc with our actions and goals?
Well, I love this topic. In fact, I've written 27 books on this very topic and helped my clients make well over $3 billion as a result of me helping them release their invisible brake. So it's a wonderful topic, and it's a big topic, but I'm excited to talk about it today. So for everyone listening to this program, whether you're a real estate investor, a real estate professional, an entrepreneur, business owner, an executive, a CEO, VP, whatever you are right now, you have goals. Right? Every single person listening to this program has goals. In fact, every human on earth has goals, right? We humans are goal-oriented organisms. We're always thinking about what do we want, whether it's a new house, a new car, to get a new job, to get a raise at work, to get more clients or customers if you're in business, right? To close more deals as real estate investors and professionals, to have a ham sandwich for lunch. We're always thinking about what do we want. And so that's what we humans are. So we've heard a billion times people talking to us about, you got to set your goals, you got to set your goals. And the thing about that that's so funny is, it's important to set your goals, but here's what we don't hear enough about, and that is what happens after you set the goal. Now, here's what I mean by that. What I'm saying now is coming from over 30 years of helping my clients add, billions of dollars collectively, 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure increases, as a result of, the frameworks that I teach and the coaching that I do. So let's say you have a goal, right? Which you do, right? But let's say it's in your business, right? Well, let's just use an example. You want to go from 100,000 to 1 million, or 1 million to 5 million, or 5 million to 10 million, whatever you are, right? 10 million to 100 million, right? So whatever your goal is. But here's what we don't hear enough about, and that is what happens after you set the goal. And here's what I mean. So let's say you have the goal to go from 5 million to 10 million. Right, in the next 12 to 18 months. Great. That's a great goal, wonderful goal. But here's what happens that we don't hear enough about, and that is most people, if they set the goal and then they go, I probably can't do it. They'd say, well, I really want to make more money, but I don't have the time. I'm already too busy. I don't have any time. I got 1,000,001 things to do today, and I don't have the time. Meanwhile, I can come in and actually show you how you can actually win back 1 to 3 hours per day while actually making more, right? So the belief that, I don't have the time, that's a lie. Another belief, right? I want to go from 5 million to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million, but I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I've tried everything already. I've hired all these gurus, hired all these coaches. They all say the same thing, and I just, it's not even worth it. I'm too old. I've tried everything.
That's right.
You see what happens? So we have all of these beliefs, what I call your head trash, right? Your head trash.
Yeah, I like that.
Is the voice in your head that says, I can't do it because ... And then you just fill in the blank. So what your head trash does and is, it causes what I like to call the invisible brake. All right. So think about your goals again, right? Notice I'm still talking about your goals, right? Because that's everything. I mean, that's everything, right? What do you want? That's where I always start with my clients, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching or keynote speech, whatever I'm doing, I'm always talking about relentlessly focusing on what do you want. But then we have to look at what happens after you say that. Oh, no, I want to make more money, but I don't have the time. Oh, I can't do it because I can't afford it. Oh, I've tried everything. I'm too old, whatever. Okay, great. So what that causes is an invisible brake. If you are driving towards your goals, it's like you're driving a car. Because guess what? Your goal is a destination. That's exactly what it is. It's a destination. Now, what is your car? A car is a vehicle to help you go from where you are to where you want to be faster than you walking. That's all a car really is, right? You could walk if you wanted
definition.
to, but,
yes.
It might take you a while.
I think you nailed it.
But let's take something really simple. Let's say you want to go down the street to the grocery store to pick up some milk and eggs, right? That's your goal. That's a destination, right? That's exactly what it is. So you get in your car and here you are driving to the grocery store. But what if you had developed the unconscious habit of driving down the road with one foot on the brake? How long do you think it would take you to reach your goal, right? It'd take you a long, long, long time, even if it's just down the street. Well, what if you wanted to go from New York to LA? That's a much longer trip, and you're driving with one foot on the brake. It's going to take you a heck of a long time to get there. So this is what most people unknowingly, unwittingly, and unconsciously are doing in their lives. They are unknowingly driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake.
Foot on the brake.
That is another way to say head trash. And that is why the invisible brake is costing people millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they don't even see it. They're not aware of it. It's an invisible cost. They're paying it every day, but they don't realize it until and unless they talk to me. And then I show them, did you realize you were paying this or losing this? I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. Just a real quick example from one of my clients. Now, I was talking to one of my clients named Charles. I talk to people every day who are, they hear me on a program like this, or they read my books, they watch my videos on YouTube, and they come talk to me. They want to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. I enjoy it. I love this. I love coaching people. I love helping. I love seeing the impact that my work has on people's lives. So I was talking with Charles, and I said, how much do you think it's costing you right now if we don't take out your head trash, if we don't release that invisible brake? In other words, how much do you think you're losing out on right now to have this invisible brake that's applied in your life right now? Now, without batting an eye, because he'd been reading my books, watching my videos on YouTube, he understood what makes me different, what makes my philosophy different. And he said, without batting an eye, $1 million. Noah, this is easily costing me $1 million, he said, to have this invisible brake, to have this head trash that you talk about. I said, Charles, this is very common. I talk to people every day who tell me the same thing. Noah, this brake is costing me $1 million, $2 million, $5 million or more every year, right? And so I said to him, you know what? I'll tell you what. Why don't you just give me 10% of that million, and I'll find you $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah, that's a good deal. I said, yeah, it is. I said, what do you want? He goes, let's do it. Right. So that's why I love working with high achievers, right? They make decisions quickly and firmly.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, I got to think about it. Let me talk to my wife. No, let's go. So
and they're willing to look and see it.
Right.
They're willing to see it. Yes.
Exactly. I coached him for 12 months, one-on-one. As it turns out, and by the way, he invested $100K for that, right? $100K, that's 10% of $1 million, right? 10%, $100K. So he invested that. I coached him. And as it turns out, I didn't find him I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him $1.8 million in 10 months. Hello. So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. That's one you would do every day and twice on Sunday.
Yes.
And in fact, he even emailed me and he said, hey, Noah, guess where I am? I'm on a 7-week vacation now. He said, this is a dream I've had for the last 20 years. He said, I've been dreaming about this, but I never had the time or the money. And he said, now, because of coaching with you, now I'm making more money, but I also have more time than ever before. So I bought a new RV. He said, it's a dream I've had for 20 years. Bought a new RV. We're driving around the country, seeing the country with my wife, taking 7 weeks off. He said, so not only am I making more money than ever before, I also have more time than ever. So thank you for changing my life, he said.
And it's those experiences. As soon as you said, how much is it costing, and what to have that head trash in your mind, I was thinking, it's about the money, but it's also about the experience, the opportunity, the feeling, all of it. So that is remarkable. And now he's achieving a life by design and some long-term goals and dreams on a more personal note with his family.
That's exactly right. There's a lot.
Builds relationships.
Yeah. Well, look, all the gurus out there, the coaches, what are they teaching? Hustle and grind. 18, 20, 37 hours a day, and keep your nose to the grindstone or work. Don't see your kids and don't go to ballet recitals and don't go to soccer games. Work.
Right.
Wow, that sounds great. Thanks, man. Where do I sign? I mean, are you kidding me right now? I don't know about you, but I would like a life. Thank you very much. Right. Number one. Number two, your business should exist to serve you, not the other way around, right? But guess what? By far, almost all entrepreneurs, but certainly the majority of entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate professionals out there are doing it in reverse. They're living to serve their business. Their business isn't serving them. That's a terrible equation. That's a bad deal for you, the entrepreneur, right? I want you to switch it, right? But you can't just say, I want to switch it. Well, no, you got to put these things in place. It's not magic. You don't snap your fingers and go, I'll build the house. Okay, snap your fingers. The house is built. No, sorry. We actually have to do the thing, right? We have to take the action. But the beauty is it's very simple. It's a framework. It's a blueprint, just like building a house. That's why they call me the neural performance architect. That's one of my names. I have a lot of names. I'm kind of like Apollo Creed. Remember Rocky IV? You got enough names? Yeah, I got a lot of names. But anyway.
That's right. Right.
Anyway, the point is, as an architect, that's what I do. I help you architect your life, but we do it from here, right? the neurons. That's why I called neural. That means your brain, right? The neural
Right.
performance. This is what's stopping you, right? I'm pointing to my brain for those of you who are listening. The point is, it's stopping you, and that's what's causing you to have your foot on the brake. And frankly, you're losing out, I should say. You're losing out on millions of dollars every year, and you don't even know it.
And everything that comes with that. So I have a question for you. So you have a high achiever. They have head trash that is still causing the invisible brake.
Mhm.
You create this structure with them as the architect to move to the goal and exceed it, and they still don't perform. Like, so do you help your clients when they've made the plan, they've agree with it, they're bought in, they want it, and then they find themselves not taking the actions?
I'm going to tell you something that you won't believe, and
Okay.
that is I've never had that happen.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason is
Because you
because I
clear
fixed
out
that
the
very
head
thing you're talking
trash
about.
so much in the beginning
Yeah.
that
But that's what my
so it
framework
reduces that
does.
friction. So one of your
Exactly.
other names is Zero Friction Doctor. I'm
Yes.
saying that
That's
not
one of
quite
my other
right,
names.
but right. So the mindset, emptying the mental head trash garbage can early as you're building the structure and then doing what you need to do to maintain it allows people to achieve growth faster
Yeah.
and exceed even what they had in mind, like Charles.
So let me tell you where this came from. This will explain it better.
Please do.
Okay.
Yes.
So I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. Now, I
Okay.
know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true.
I know what you mean.
I grew up in a little
Yeah.
town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. In fact, in the whole country.
Right.
But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
Haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. Now, we've all heard motivational speakers, and they'll get on stage and they'll say things like, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. And
Right.
so from a very young age, I hated that life of poverty because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? Now, of course, there was no internet or all the things we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I just read all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, and I read over 200 self-help books. And they all basically said the same thing. There you go, think positive, use affirmations, write it down. They all say the same thing.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
okay, right. So I tried it. I really, really worked really hard. But at the age of 25, I'd been reading all these books for years. I found myself, living alone in poverty in Los Angeles. I was living in a little apartment in North Hollywood, California. And one day I just said, I don't want to be here anymore. And I decided to take my own life because I had just lost everything. I had lost my job. I had no money. My girlfriend left me. It was like a country song, but it really was happening to me. And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I decided to take my own life. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I realized that I didn't know the answers to some very crucial questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I doing here on the earth? And what do I want the rest of my life to look like? Now, I didn't know the answers to any of those questions. So guess what I did? I went back to the library. And this time I read every book in the spiritual section. So I read over 150 books in the spiritual section talking about purpose, life purpose. Why are we here? These questions that humans have been asking for centuries.
Right.
So then fast forward 5 years later in 1997, I had these epiphanies when I realized exactly what was missing in all of those hundreds of books that I'd spent all those years reading. And no one was talking about it. And that's when I realized, this is my message. This is my mission. And that's when I wrote my very first book called Permission to Succeed, because I realized that we don't need any more how-tos of success. For millions of us, we need to stop stopping ourselves from success. In other words, to give ourselves permission to succeed. I actually trademarked that phrase. I own that phrase, permission to succeed, because that's how powerful it is. And that's actually became my very first book, which was published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher subsequently. So now all these years later, I'm the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conan, and The Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. Not Tony Robbins,
That's
not
a
Wayne
feat.
Dyer, not Deepak Chopra, just little old me. So
that is a feat. And
yeah.
that is, I believe, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, please do.
That book, that Permission to Succeed, and I'm not trying to oversimplify, I believe that that's one of the reasons you made it through that darkest hour. And this
Right.
is the purpose, because it gave you that insight, and now you are sharing. You are that messenger.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to share where my teaching came from, because I think it's important for people to realize that, number one, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Number
Right.
two, we barely had a spoon. Number three, on the spoon was macaroni and cheese. That's all we had to eat. My point is, this came
Maybe
from
some
pain.
ramen noodles to mix it up
Ramen
on
noodles,
occasion.
pain,
Okay. All right, good.
and reading all these books and going, what the heck aren't they telling us? What the heck is missing around here? And that's what I've written 27 books about the missing piece. In fact, I've had so many of my clients over the years say, Noah, thank you for giving me the missing piece. I've been looking for this for decades. Very, very, in fact, similar to my story. So I know I'm not alone in this, right? Of course I'm not.
No, yeah.
You know, what Emerson said, what is most personal is most universal. So this was something that was very personal to me, but I knew it was very universal, to millions of people. So that is really the main reason that I realized I have to create a system, a framework, a blueprint that will enable any of us, all of us who want to, who are ready for this message.
Yes.
To get our foot off the brake and stop stopping ourselves from the level of success we're perfectly capable.
This may seem very practical, but I'm curious, what time span occurred between that darkest hour and writing and having Permission to Succeed published?
So I decided to commit suicide in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered what I then called success anorexia, 1997. Because I realized that I, like millions of others, were starving myself of success. That was the phrase that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I've had people at my seminars, and I mean, literally grown men with tears in their eyes come up to me.
Right.
I literally just did a TEDx talk just a few months ago. And a man came up to me out of the, afterwards. And, I had a lot of people in my line afterwards, and man with tears in his eyes. And he said, Noah, I just lost my son 3 weeks ago. And he said, this is the first time I've smiled since the funeral. I was like, whoa, because it spoke to him. Anyway, my point is that I realized that I was starving myself of success. And so all of these books that show how to succeed were talking about exactly the wrong thing. Right. So think about this for 1 second, for everyone listening. All right, so I want you to imagine that you have someone with an eating disorder. Now, maybe you know someone who has an eating disorder, maybe you don't, but maybe you have heard of it. Anyway, Very simply, an eating disorder is somebody who is starving themselves of food. They're starving their physical body. Now, I want you to imagine that you have someone there with an eating disorder, like anorexia. And what you do is you teach them about nutrition. Okay, here's how to eat properly. Now, also, you teach them how to eat food. All right, what you do is you put your fork in the food and then you put it in your mouth, you chew and swallow. Now, how stupid is that, right? When I say it like that, it sounds incredibly dumb, doesn't it?
Right.
It is stupid.
Right.
Because that's what we have been told in the personal development industry. Hey, dum-dum, here's how to succeed. You make money. Really? I never thought of that before. Thanks.
And don't spend all of it.
And by the way, work your ass off until you're dead. Thanks a lot, man. This is great.
Right.
Thank you. But do you see what I'm saying? So do you see the analogy?
I do.
So what I realized is that the people with an eating disorder, they don't need to learn about how to eat. They know how to eat. They're doing it they're starving themselves, not on purpose, but because of something that is unconscious in the subconscious, right? Same thing with us success anorexics, which nobody likes to call themselves, by the way. I mean, nobody wears that as a badge of honor. Hey, I'm a success anorexic. No, I know that. But for those listening, I want you to think about that. Have you been starving yourself of success? Are you driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake? Gee, for most of the humans that I've talked to over the last 3 decades, a lot of people are nodding their heads right now, okay?
Yes.
And that's okay, all right? But the point is, don't beat yourself up. I mean, like Charles, right? I said, Charles, this is very common. But until you have had your eyes open to the reality, you're going to keep trying to fix the wrong problem. So think about this. I'm going to use another great analogy that everybody totally gets. All right.
Okay.
So now let's go back to your car. All right. So remember, what
Yes.
is your car? Your car is a
Yes.
vehicle to go from where you are to where you want to be faster.
Faster than
Simple as
walking.
that, right?
That's right.
So here you are, you're in your car. But now you're unconsciously driving with one foot on the brake. Now, you don't mean to do this. Nobody's doing this on purpose. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, wow, this looks like a great day. You know what? I think I'm going to hold myself back from success today, right? You would never say that.
Right.
No one
No.
ever has ever said that. Why?
Today's a
Because
great
it's in the
day for
subconscious.
self-sabotage.
Right. This is
Yeah,
great.
no.
Self-sabotage. Where do I sign up? No, that's never happened. Okay.
Right.
But you see what I mean? So you're unconsciously doing this. Keep that very point in mind because it's crucial. All right. So here you are driving down, but you have one foot on the brake. And you don't know it. You just don't even know it. But you're frustrated because you're like, why aren't I going faster? This doesn't make sense. I should be further ahead than I am right now. I'm working. I'm doing this. So guess what? You're frustrated. So you are what? You're looking for a solution. So what do? You go online. You go on YouTube. Go on ChatGPT. Whatever. You're searching. You're going on Google. How to succeed. How to make money. Great. There's only 10 trillion of those. Good luck.
Right.
So the first person that you come across says, you know what you need? You need to put a new type of gas in your car. You need to put the most expensive type of gas because that's your problem. It's the gas. The gas isn't good enough. Put the more expensive gas in the car. Then you'll reach your goals faster. Okay, you go, all right, fine, go to the gas station. Put in the most expensive high-octane gas, which right now is very expensive, if you haven't noticed.
Yes.
So you're spending more money than you should. Unnecessarily. Anyway, so you put the gas in, but you get back in your car doing the same habit. You still have your foot on the brake unknowingly. And what happens? The same result. So now you're more frustrated. So you keep searching the second guru. Second guru says, you know what you need? You need a new set of tires. These tires aren't good enough. Go get these super duper, really expensive tires, the XYZ brand. And you're like, all right, fine. Go to the tire store, spend more money on the replace the tires, which were perfectly fine. Get back in your car, same habit, same result. Now the third guru, you find the third guru. Now this is where it gets really fun. He says, you know what you need? You need a new car. Now look at my car. Right, you look at this expensive Italian sports car. Look at me, man. And you look at him on Instagram and social media, the yacht, the helicopter, the race car, the sports car, whatever. You go, wow, man, he looks really impressive. All right, I guess he knows what he's doing. So you trade in your car, which was perfectly fine, for an Italian sports car, which is very expensive. You get in your car and you're still doing the same habit. Getting the same result. So you've spent all this time, money, and effort on the wrong solutions to the wrong problem. So here's what I do that's different. I come along and I say, excuse me, did you know you have your foot on the brake? And you're like, no, really? I go, yeah. You get your foot off the brake. You can actually reach your goals a lot faster and easier without having to spend more time, money, and effort. You're like, really? Yeah, we just do these simple things. You follow this framework that I invented 30 years ago. It's been proven tens of thousands of times. And you get your foot off the brake, you reach your goals 10 times faster and easier. Where do I sign? You see what I mean? So, like Charles, and by the way, for everyone listening, I would highly encourage you to go to noahstjohn.com right now and click on the results page. Just do that. If you're skeptical, which you are. Everyone listening to this program is skeptical. Why? Because we've all been burned by these gurus out there. We've all been burned by them because they are, what's a nice way to say this? Lying sociopaths. They're lying sociopaths. Yeah. That means they don't care. That's what a sociopath actually is. He doesn't care. He took your money and the end. That's it.
They achieved their goal. That's right.
Hey, why do you think he's got the sports car and the yacht, right?
That's right.
Because
it reminds me of
good. What's that?
Go ahead. No, you.
I was just going to say, he's very good at making money for himself.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that he's any good at helping others make more money. So when you go to noahstjohn.com and you click on the results page, you will see over 250 of my clients and their results. Because who cares if I've made money? Yes, of course I've made money. I'm doing fine. But who cares? Shouldn't it be more about who that coach, mentor has helped to make money and get results in their lives? That's what I'm on a mission, to talk about. I'm not going to change it because it's not going to change, but at least somebody has heard it now. At least everyone listening to this program has heard it from my mouth.
Has heard it. That's right. And they may now know that there's other options.
Exactamundo.
Another approach.
Exactamundo. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's, but it's funny when you were talking about the other gurus, especially guru number 3, it reminds me of one that would make a joke and say, I have a money back guarantee. I guarantee you once you give me your money, you're not getting it back. So that's what popped in my mind.
Yeah,
so what happens?
And he thinks that's clever and funny. And guess what? He's making tons of money.
Yeah.
Is he helping? And I don't know who that is and I don't care. Is he helping? I hope he is helping people. I hope so. But I don't know, 99 times out of 100, that's the deal you get. It's sad. It's sad. Very sad.
I just was thinking as you were talking, And I love your visual of head trash. So I want to use that. One of the things that occurs, you listen to guru number one, you do it, you're faithful for 9 months and still no results and possibly worse because you shifted focus away from things that may have been inadvertently working for you. Loss of confidence, more head trash created. The garbage can isn't emptied. Let me do number two, more head trash created, added to the, now you brought in a dumpster, rented a dumpster, put it behind your house, a head trash dumpster. And then number three, and it all compounds. So compounding works in both directions. So as you were saying, like, I feel like when people, everyone listening to us right now, if they've stayed with us, you are right. They're probably skeptical.
Yes.
How is it possible that it could be that different? And what you're saying is you just go to noahstjohn.com and set aside the head trash for the moment, throw a tarp over it, right? Turn away, go to another part of your brain and to check that out, because there is a meaningful, different approach.
Well, and let me thank you. And that's well said. And by the way, for everyone listening, you also need to book your audit. We call it the invisible break audit. Simple, right? Because I'm talking about the invisible break. So all you have to do when you go to noahstjohn.com, there's a big button there that just says, get my invisible break audit. Just click that button and it will take you to the page and you just book an audit. Now, what this is a 15-minute call, and either I or one of my coaches will get on a Zoom with you and we will just examine where your break is. It only takes 15 minutes. All right. So number one, we'll look at where your break is. Number two, how much it's costing you. And number three, you're going to walk away with a 3-step plan to release the invisible break so you can stop stopping yourself from the success you're perfectly capable of. So if you look at what I'm saying right now, what makes this different? Well, what every other guru is saying is step on the gas harder, right? If you want to reach your goals faster, step on the gas. Well, that makes perfect sense, right? It's perfectly logical. If you want to go somewhere faster, step on the gas. Duh. But my entire point is that's great. But what if you already have your other foot on the brake?
Right.
You're just going to ruin your car faster, right? And so listen, again, I'm speaking to the skepticism because the reason you're skeptical is because this industry, the guru industry, the self-help industry, is very non-regulated, shall we say. So anybody can say anything, and there's not much that people can do, which is really sad. So a few years ago, it was so much easier because people hadn't been burned so much. But I don't think I've met anyone in the last 5 years, maybe longer, who hasn't been burned by these guys because they're lying sociopaths. And so we live in a trust recession. Trust is lower than it's ever been, and it's only going to get worse. It's not going to come back, and then you've got people that just say anything, and, it's really sad. All you need is to be really good at social media, and you can get a big following, and then you can be saying essentially whatever you want. So it doesn't really matter if someone's gotten people results or not. All they have to be is good at self-promotion. So
correct. They have to appear as if.
Exactly.
That's right.
And people are teaching that. They're saying, do that. And I get that. I get the point. I get it. We can't sometimes you can't wait. You have to, what do they call it? Fake it till you make it, which I totally disagree with, but I see their point. You can't really wait for permission, even though of course I wrote a book called Permission to Succeed. In a sense, you don't want to wait for it. So it's tricky and I get it. But I guess all I'm trying to say is it's okay to be skeptical, and it's also okay to hear what I'm saying and realize that it is different. And go to the results page. Just watch the videos. Like the video, I'll give you another great example. I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles for 1,000 business owners. These are high-level people, 7, 8, and 9-figure earners, right? Really successful group. And I spoke for about 30 minutes. I was walking off the stage, and a man came up to me, and he said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. You can watch his video. Watch his video on the page right there. Anyway, so I said, okay, well, what's going on? He goes, well, Noah, I own this software company, and we grew to 7 figures in revenue really fast, But we have been stuck at the same level for the past 4 years. 4 years we've been stuck flatline. And he said, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I paid all these marketing gurus. He named all the big names, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he said, I can't break through that ceiling. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about the invisible break and head trash and, gurus now, everything you just said, he said, I knew you were the coach I've been looking for. So I want to hire you. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? They make decisions quickly and firmly. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot. So I coached him and his leadership team for 18 months. And in that 18 months, do you know we got his company that had been stuck for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues, from 4 million to 20 million. That's a 600% increase in 18 months.
Right.
Now, think about this. Most entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders would be thrilled at a 10% increase. 15%, they're popping champagne. We got them 600% in 18 months without spending more on ads, without spending more on marketing. That's what we like to call a hockey stick, right? We go along like this.
That's right.
And then,
that's right.
Right? It's like a hockey stick, right?
Yeah.
Hockey stick growth. What caused that? I took out his head trash. It is a framework, but it's not some magic wand. It's a framework, a blueprint system that anybody can do. And by the way, for those of you listening say, oh, well, that's great. I'm not making 4 million. I don't care. I've helped people who are making 40,000, 400,000, 4 million, 40 million. It does not matter where you're at right now. Now, if you say, oh, I can't afford it. Okay, go get a book. Watch my videos on YouTube.
You've created the library of both audio,
so we have
video,
one-on-one,
books,
which is an investment. It's a lot of money, but let's see. Look at the ROI. I mean, believe me, you didn't spend 20 million, so you're welcome.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The percentage didn't go up based on the results. Right.
You know what I mean? So, hello.
So I have a question around that. So you said that you coached the CEO, Adam, that came up and grabbed your attention.
Yes.
And his leadership team.
Yes.
So a question that I have, with that amount of growth, after being at that plateau, did they work more, the same, or less? Each of the leaders and the CEO.
Right.
Could you share a little bit more about that? Okay.
And see, that's the thing. That's what makes this counterintuitive. So think about this, everyone listening. This is counterintuitive, because think about this. If I said to you, hey, I can get you a 600% increase in your income. How'd you like that? Yeah, sounds great. Okay, just work 600 times harder and work 600 times longer. Well, first of all, that's not even mathematically possible. You can't work 600 times longer. I mean, what are you going to do? Work 96 hours in a day? I mean, we don't do that. It's not possible on planet Earth. See what I mean? So think about the people that are, very, very successful here on planet Earth. The Warren Buffetts, Richard Bransons, the Mark Cubans, people like that. Are they working 92 hours a day? No, they only have the same 24 hours as we do, right? Everybody's got the same hours a day. And, they're not really working that much. But what do they have? They have systems. They have frameworks, right? And that's how, taking the example of, let's say, McDonald's, right? And people working at McDonald's know that there's a system, right? So that's why you can have teenagers working at McDonald's and the system works.
Right.
W. Edwards Deming, the famous systems guy back in the day, he said, and I love this quote, he said, you put a good person in a bad system, the system will win every time. And I'm like,
yes,
that's a really good quote. Because think about this, everybody listening to this program is a good person, but maybe you're running a bad system. Does that make sense? So we've got to fix the system, and then you don't have to work harder. And see, but you see what I mean? That's why it's counterintuitive, because everybody would think, oh, I got to work 6 times harder. Yeah, good luck with that. You can't. You cannot do it. So that's the point. When we release the brake, your car just goes. It's like, you already have your foot on the gas. And by the way, I just want to say something. I just blew motivational speakers out of the water. Or who's a motivational speaker. What does a motivational speaker do? They say, well, come on, you can do it. Set your goals. Okay, I already have my goals, dude. I already won it. So every human on this planet is already motivated.
Yes.
See? So you don't need more motivation. You do not need more motivation. What you need is get your foot off the brake. In fact, it's funny. I was speaking at another event for a Fortune 500 company, and one of the leaders came up to me after my talk, and she said to me something very fascinating I never forgot. And she said, Noah, she said, thank you very much. And, there's a long line. And I said, nice to meet you. Anyway, she said, thank you. And I want you to know something. You're not a motivational speaker. You're a motivating speaker. And I was like, that's really cool. Yeah, that's what I said. I said, oh, that's nice. I said, really? What? That's actually really cool. What do you mean by that? I asked her. And she said, well, a motivational speaker gets up on stage and he'll tell a bunch of story, and like get you all sort of pumped up. And then by Monday, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? What good was that? And she said, now I want you to know, and she held up her notepad and she had taken 6 pages of notes. I'd only spoken for like 30 minutes. She had 6 pages of notes. And she said, you didn't just motivate me, you gave me a framework that I can use, and you motivated me. Now I am motivated. And so she said, that's why you're not a motivational speaker, you're a motivating speaker. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Anyway, I love that. I thought that was really cool.
It is really cool. And it shows that you are having that impact you desire on people at all levels.
Yeah.
Because if she felt that and shared it with you, how many more in the room had the same, right? That just didn't let you know. So that makes me think of something. So I know that you've worked with athletes, celebrities, CEOs, leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners. Is there anyone, but then at the same time, you've also said you don't care where they're starting from. Somebody could be making 90,000 and they truly desire the growth. That should not stop them. Who is the ideal person to work with you and truly have growth like Charles, or have that brilliant insight from that leader at the Fortune 500 company or the software? Who's like the ideal person to work with you?
Well, the ideal person is someone who has spent a lot of money on coaching and consulting and is still hitting that ceiling. All right. So that's why, again, I'll just reiterate, when you go to noahstjohn.com, just click that button and book your invisible audit call. All right. So again, it's me and one of my coaches will walk you through that process. So right on that page, it'll say, for people who've spent, and in some cases, literally 6 figures on coaching and consulting, and you're still hitting a ceiling. You're still hitting a ceiling. And see, that's the funny thing about the invisible break. It's invisible, right?
Yeah.
So you're not thinking about it. You're like, why am I not? So it's sort of this amorphous feeling that something's not right, but I can't quite put my finger on it, right? So what you know, though, is a ceiling. Like Adam, great example, right? He knew he was hitting that ceiling, and he was spending tons of money. Well, major 6 figures trying to fix it, but he was trying to fix the wrong problem, right? So think about this. There's nothing wrong with marketing. You have to do marketing. Of course you do. But he'd already gotten to that point where he was successful. I mean, hey, most people would say, gee, 7 figures, that's pretty awesome. But he knew he was capable of more.
Right.
So maybe you're making 100K right now, but you're capable of $1 million or more. So that's the person. Now, again, to get one-on-one coaching me, it's expensive. Why? Because I get results. That's why. $3 billion. You're welcome. Okay. So, but that you can read one of my books. You can watch my videos. You can, by the way, we do also do group coaching. So of course the one-on-one is a bigger investment naturally, because there's only one of me. So, it costs more, but let's say and also for those of you who, let's say you have a real estate company, you can bring me in to train your people, right? And by the way, I can do that virtually. We can do it on Zoom, just like we're talking now, or I can do it live, fly me into your office and do once a quarter, whatever. So there's lots of ways to slice and dice this. And by the way, I also license my programs. So I have online programs like Power Habits Academy, Get Unstuck Now. These are programs that thousands of people have bought all around the world, over 120 countries. And, I've been selling them for a long time. So you can actually license them. So maybe you have 50 people in your office, or, 100 salespeople, or 1,000, whatever it might be. You license it, then everyone's speaking the same language. Because if you notice, a lot of what I'm saying is new. Like probably you haven't heard a lot of this or any of it, unless you've heard me or watched my videos.
Heard it from you. That's right. Or read it from
exactly.
you. That's right.
So you're not going to get the same, think positive, set your goals. You can do it. It's like, thanks, man. Never thought of that. So I don't know about you, but I can't stand those cliches. So tired of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, and we're all tired. We've all heard it a million times at this point. And so anyway, that's the beauty of it. We can slice and dice this any way you want. And I mean, again, worst case, start with a book. In fact, Charles, that's how he started. Charles actually told me the story. He was in Barnes & Noble, and he walked by my book called Power Habits. He said he kept walking by it. He walked by it 3 times, and he said, somebody called out to me about your book, Noah. And then he read half the book and then contacted me on my website, one phone call, invested $100K, to get one-on-one coaching. So it's not like you have to wait, Now, if you're not in that position, well, then start with the book. Start with the online courses. Start with Power Habits Academy. We have lots of ways to do this because, look, I remember what it's like. I know what it's like to not have 2 nickels to rub together. I told you I grew up poor. I'm not making it up. I grew up poor.
Right.
So, hey, if that's where you're at right now, I've got tools to help that person. If you're, if you've already invested 6 figures or multiple 6 figures in coaching, consulting, well, then you're ready for the one-on-one. Let's go. Let's get your foot off the brake so you can have that hockey stick growth that I just talked about.
It does. It sounds like, tell me if I'm hearing this correctly. It's someone that is a high achiever. They've created some modicum of success. Most people around them probably perceive them as very successful
Yes.
already. And
Yes.
yet inside themselves, they know they
Bingo.
have that gnawing, nagging sense of why am I underperforming? And I'm not talking about in a messed up headspace, self-critical way that's not real. Like they just know there's more in them.
Right. That's
And
right.
they have either performed, I'll say, at a higher level in the past, or they know
Sure.
they feel it inside themselves, that they would really be doing themselves a disservice to not
That's
explore
right.
this.
Because think about the impact that you could have when you get your foot off the brake. So you're already having an impact. I'm not saying you're not.
Right.
Saying,
That's
but
right.
think
Right.
about the impact you can have when you get your foot off the brake, when you release that invisible brake, when you get rid of that head trash. That is right now costing you. Yes, it's costing you money. It's costing you opportunity, costing you time, but it's also hurting. And I say that on purpose, even though it sounds terrible, but you're hurting the people who are missing out on your message, on your
Right.
impact, on the gift that you have, you uniquely have to give them. I mean, it's very, very powerful, when you think about it that way. I got another great example. Another one of my coaching clients named Brian. Now, he is a real estate investor. Now,
Mhm.
he heard me speak at a real estate conference and he decided to hire me to coach him. And he was doing well. He was doing six figures, so, not like struggling or destitute, but,
Right.
he still hitting a ceiling. He's told me he spent a lot of money on lots of other things and kept hitting that ceiling. So, I coached him. Now, when I started coaching, he was living in Boston. And he, started to really do well. In fact, he told me that because of coaching with me, he did sales in 12 days that netted him $95,000 in commissions. 95,000 commissions in 12 days. Now, he had never
Right.
done anything close to that before. So he just broke like every company record.
Right. Right.
Okay. So number one. Number two, he
He got the
also
parking
decided
spot for
that
the next year.
yeah, hello. He also decided he wanted to lose some weight. So he lost 30 pounds and he's kept it off ever since. And get this, and this is the kicker. He also decided to move from Boston to Aruba. And now he's living in Aruba. He's got a very successful real estate company, living and working in Aruba. So from Boston to Aruba, you're welcome.
Yeah. I'd take that.
And I
I
lived in
would take
Boston.
that
It's
move.
nice, but I'll take Aruba. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying?
would take that. Yeah, for sure. So it's intriguing. You mentioned that with your company that you have some group coaching and you also
Yes.
mentioned other coaches. So do you also have coaches that are implementing the system? Because you mentioned McDonald's. So like, are you able to systematize the bulk of what you do? And have your coaches then implement.
Yes. Yeah. So we have what's called Power Habits Coach Academy. So I have
Mhm.
certified people in my system because that's why it's a system. See, when I was reading all those books that I talked about earlier, I realized that the main problem with them was there was no system. It was just a guy talking about a bunch of stories. And I'm like, wow, thanks a lot. What do you want me to do with that? That doesn't, well, I did this. And I'm like, who cares? I
Right.
don't care about you. I care about me, right? Just like everybody.
Right.
Right? Everybody
Yeah.
cares about, well, I climbed Mount Everest. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Now what? I mean, you see what I
Right.
mean? Again,
Yeah.
I'm not saying, putting it down. I'm just saying, well, what do you want me to do now?
Yeah.
So I'm always about results. I'm like, let's go, but I'm very just practical. I'm like, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. And I found that most people are like that. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it. Because I want that success. I want that thing. No kidding. We all want it. See, like I said, we already have our foot on the gas, right? So yes, so that's why it is a framework. And like I talked about earlier, it is also online, like Power Habits
Mhm.
Academy, 7-Figure Machine, Get Unstuck Now. These are creations or, online programs that I've created that you can just go through, at your own time, on your own pace. So anyways, yeah, it's very powerful. But that was before I wrote my first book, before I wrote Permission to Succeed, I said to myself, there's got to be a framework. It can't just be a bunch of story, because that doesn't
Right.
do anybody
Right.
any good. I want to
Right.
know, what do I do? And by the way, let me just mention this. So now we live in the world of AI. We live in the age of AI. Everybody knows that, right? So ChatGPT came out
Yep.
and now it's Claude, Gemini, Grok, Perplexity. Those are the 5 main ones. And they've changed the world. Now,
Yes.
I started my company, that's clinic.com, in 1997 with $800 and a book on HTML in a 300 square foot basement apartment in Hadley, Massachusetts. So I had nothing. I mean, I had no money, no business experience, no marketing, no sales, nothing. But what I did have, I had one thing going for me that I bet everybody listening to this program also has, and that is a deep burning desire to make a difference, to make an impact, to help people, right? That was all I had. And so that kept me going through all those lean years. But so I was there at the very beginning of the internet revolution.
Right.
Now, the internet revolution, if you remember being online in the 90s, right? Remember AOL?
I
You
do.
got mail in.
Yes, that's right.
Remember that?
Yes.
Okay, so
I
I've
do.
been around a long, long time. And, so the internet took about 10 years to really reach its maturity. Well, guess what? The AI age took about 10 months. So
Right.
literally well over 10x faster. So, we've all been on the internet for a while now, but see, now we're living in the second revolution, the AI revolution, which has happened 10 times faster. Okay. So what has happened in this industry is that people really aren't seeking the help they need in many cases. Or I say it another way, they're going to the LLMs for help. How do I change my habits? You type that in ChatGPT. How do I change my habits? Well,
Right.
and there you go. Okay. Well, why do I need a coach? Well, maybe you don't. I mean, maybe not. Just type it in ChatGPT. Good luck. But what this is not merely coaching. It's more of an architecture. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, that I am the neural performance architect, one of my many names.
Yes.
Okay. So can ChatGPT build your house? Well, not yet. Not yet. I'm not saying it won't. Maybe, years when this is online, maybe ChatGPT will be building houses. I don't know, but not right now. So
it'll be a marriage of 3D printer technology and AI technology, and all of a sudden they'll be building houses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't cross the beams.
But you still need human beings to oversee that process, I think.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So that's what I'm the architect. I've literally built thousands of houses for people in their lives. Right now, you're doing it. It's not like I'm building your life for you. So the first thing, when you go to an architect, what's the first thing that a good one, should say to you? Well, the first thing they should say to you is, what kind of house would you like? Right? I mean, now, if the architect, on the other hand, says, well, we build these kind of houses and that's it. So take it or leave it. Okay, well, if you like it, that's fine. But most people, they want like a custom house, right? Most people.
Right.
That's what I do. Excuse me. I'm getting all choked up. I'm getting all excited here. Pardon me. But anyway, my point is that kind of thing, as far as I know, you can't do with the LLMs at this time.
Right.
All right. So that's why if you want that one-to-one human interaction, well, that's where I come in. Okay. So, I mean, the truth is, you can learn a lot from these LLMs. I use them every single day in my business now. I mean, in my case, I don't know how I could live without them now. I mean, I literally use them every day. But there are just still limitations. And what we're seeing now is that people now are even more starving for that human interaction.
That is correct.
So we want that high tech, but we still want the high touch.
Well, you're exactly right. And not to get sidetracked, but there is the loneliness epidemic, which is researched. It is real. And it was impacting more men than women. It still is.
Because men don't talk about this stuff.
Impacting men. The sad thing is, in the last couple of years, women have started closing the gap, and the issue
in the wrong way
is stabilized in the wrong way. That's right. Yeah, they're catching up in terms of it. So that is a strange dynamic right now. That, as you said, we have how many people have given their interaction and conversation with AI a name? They're giving it a personality.
They're marrying them.
And social media is so pervasive, and yet people are feeling lonelier and lonelier. That human connection is vital.
Well, it can't be replaced. At this time, it can't be replaced. Again, I'm not saying it won't be or can't be, but it can't be replaced yet. Not yet.
Right.
But people are marrying their AI chatbots, which I'm like, oh, good luck with that. Okay. Which I get it. I mean, an AI chatbot says everything you want to hear. You're wonderful. You're smart. You're handsome. Oh, thank you very much.
Yes,
We're never going to talk back to you.
Right.
But let's face it. You know what? If you want unconditional love, get a dog.
That's right. Yes.
That's unconditional love. That's a real thing.
Get a dog.
That's
name
a real
it Claude.
Live animated thing.
Well, I do agree with you. There is something about the two-way communication and the energy, the vibration that occurs when you know that another human hears you, understands you, and values at least what you're saying. So that it's it's very meaningful. So I'm a big proponent of that. It's of reach. Yes. I also use AI. Love AI. I use all sorts of technology and platforms and have since they came out late 90s predominantly. And yet seek out someone like Dr. Noah that has been there, that has faced things, that has experienced it. Reach out to humans in addition to what you're doing with online.
Right.
And don't be afraid of online. Don't be afraid of AI, but also make sure that we need, you know what? We need to create a wave of a new Renaissance person where you are embracing the tools and relationships that are in front of us.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm certainly the opposite of against AI. I love AI and
I
I
know. I
help
love
my
it.
clients
Right.
through it every single day. But that's the point. I have a framework that is unique, proprietary, and has been proven over 30 years and $3 billion of results. Just go to the page and see for yourself. But that's the point. So I'm certainly not saying that, I or anybody can replace AI, but I am saying I think you really want to augment your AI usage with that human interaction. And frankly, that gives you the full picture.
That's right. So it'll just be you're increasing the likelihood that you will keep your foot off the brake while you're driving. When I believe when you have both or all. I don't want to even limit it just to human versus robot, like the robot overlords. When something that's interesting to me, I just am curious. You have written almost a book a year.
Yeah.
So I believe you also have a perspective you could share with people that want to write. I can't think of the stat right now, but somewhere over 70% of people want to write a book. And yet like 3% or something. I might have those numbers off. I'll look them up and I'll overlay them in the notes. Yeah, right. Actually do it. A quick note for anyone out there that wants to write a book and I feel like, oh, there's AI. Today, everything's available. Nothing is new. I don't have a story people want to read, yet they have that desire to write. What would you say to them?
Well, I do help people get their first books written. I've helped many of my clients get their first books written and published. That's actually one of the services that we have. We call it the Book Done For You service. Great name, huh?
Yeah.
So we help with that. In fact, one of our clients...
Clarity is power.
I know, right? Just one of our clients, he told me when we spoke the first time that he told me that he had been thinking about writing his book for 10 years. We got it done in 8 weeks. So think about that.
Amazing.
10 years to 8 weeks.
He took
why?
his foot off
Because I have a process, a framework. Have you heard me say this before?
Yeah.
Because I have. Because I have, ask my wife, I have a system for everything. Brushing my teeth, eating, whatever. I have a system for everything, especially helping clients. So yes, I definitely help people with that. That's one of the services we offer. But just as a note for everybody, listening who's thinking, gee, I'd like to write a book. Yeah, absolutely. AI tools are available to use and they can certainly help. Sometimes it comes off a little robotic, shall we say. So, again, you want to make sure you have those human eyes on it so that, it doesn't sound robotic, that it sounds human.
That's right.
Number one. And number two, I'm going to say something that I've said to all my clients that say, hey, Noah, I really want to write a book. And I always know what the next sentence is. And it's all about my life story. And I always have to say to them, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but nobody cares.
No one cares.
Nobody cares about your life story.
No one cares.
Unless your name's Kim Kardashian or, whatever, I'm a celebrity.
A lot of people don't even care about that.
Well, a lot of people do, but I'm just saying.
I do.
Most
right?
people don't have that luxury.
But I mean, that's my point is even someone as big as that, there's even still going to be some people
well,
like, whatevs.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is they can get away with it. Hey, here's what I did.
Right.
Because, they are they're famous for being famous. My point is, for the rest of us, you have to say something. You have to have some value there, And so when we're talking nonfiction, the point is you want to give people a result. Show them how to get a result. So for those of you in the real estate, how to sell your house faster, how to make money in real estate. If it's a self-help book, how to, whatever that result is. So you want to talk about the result framework. Now you can intersperse your stories in there, which you notice I do that, right? So I tell stories, but I'm making a point. So you never want to have a point without a story, and you never want to have a story without a point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very inspiring that you've written that much. And it's clear that you do have a framework and a system for making that happen. And that commitment you have to spreading the message is so clear. I want to go back to earlier in the story again, in our story here in this podcast. Can you share when you had the moment of realization of, I am here? How did you get your foot on the gas to recuperate from that place to where you are now impacting so many others? And I believe you're joy-filled. Tell me if I'm wrong, right? So how did you do that?
Well, I always hated being poor. So again, remember, that's why I shared that story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we humans are driven by two main forces, the desire to gain pleasure and to avoid pain.
Right.
So what I have observed in myself and in my clients is that the desire to avoid pain is 3 to 5 times stronger than the desire to gain pleasure.
Right.
I don't know why, but that just seems to be the
It's
way
how
it
it
is.
is.
So
Yes.
most people, if you ask people, why did they start their business? Well, I want to make more money. Well, I want to help people. Okay, yeah, those are all true, but what really is it? For me, it was, I don't want to be poor. I hated being
Hmm.
poor. I really, really, really hated it. And it hurt, it hurt and it made me angry. You know what I'm saying? So you see, these are like pain words, you see?
Right.
And so I share that on purpose because I want people to realize that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Most entrepreneurs, if you ask them, they say, well, I had this thing and I wanted to do it and there wasn't a solution. I wanted to have this. And so I made it myself, and
Right.
then I made a lot of money.
Right.
I'm like, that's awesome. So it came from frustration many, many times, not always, oh, I want to make a lot of money. Well, of course we do. But really, many times it comes from frustration. So that's definitely what it was for me. I'm like, I really want to avoid this. And I want to go over here, and I want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want to have an impact. Like when I did my TEDx talk, just seeing that line of people and have so many people,
Right.
come up to me and thank me. I mean, that's just a great feeling. Anybody who's listening who has had that kind of feeling knows what that feels like. And it
Right.
is a great feeling. And yeah, that's definitely what, one of the things that keeps you going.
Did you stay in North Hollywood, or is that when you moved to Boston?
Well, no, I traveled all the way across the country. I grew up in Maine and I drove across the country to Los Angeles, to North
Hmm.
Hollywood. And then I flew back, pulled all my
Hmm.
belongings, flew back to
Hmm.
New England, then went back to college when I was 28. So I went to college the first time when I
Okay.
was 18, the second time at 28. And then I discovered success anorexia at 30. So that's why I've been doing this for, 29 years, going on 30 years now. Yeah, I've been doing it a long time. I've got the gray hairs to prove it.
Well, I'm just glad you shared that because I don't want you to discount all of that because your way to get away from that pain and look at what you created along the way and then making that choice to like, you know what, I am going to go back to school. I'm going to further myself here and I'm going to figure out how I am not going to be poor again. It sounds like you had a Scarlett O'Hara style moment of,
Exactly.
God is
Exactly.
my witness.
That's right.
I shall never be
Totally.
hungry again. And I felt like that was an important item to share for anyone who's listening to us that may feel like I'm too broke. My debt's too huge. My IRS situation is too bad. I have X, Y, and Z on my credit report. I am too fill in the blank, as you mentioned earlier. Old, young, fat, skinny, too much hair, not enough hair, like whatever that is. You now have a new frame of reference for that in that is head trash. And do you want to live with the trash in your house just accumulating all day, every day and, no, you want to remove it. You want that to keep moving out. You don't go to the landfill searching for your trash that you threw away to bring it back out. Let me relive
I hope
that.
not.
Right. So it's really, I just want to thank you for sharing that language, the perspective, and it's very powerful. So you have permission to succeed. Out of your books, the 27 books, if anyone listening right now is like, all right, what's the first one? I know it may vary based on their situation and what they want to do, but what would you say is like, if you're doing one first, make it this one?
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend this one called Power Habits. I don't know
Okay.
if you can see that, but Power Habits.
Yes.
And this is the book that I was talking about, that Charles,
Mm-hmm.
called out to him in Barnes and Noble. So
Yeah.
you can get that at powerhabitsbook.com, or of
Okay.
course Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And yes, it is on Audible as well. So you can listen to my voice if you like. And so we have that. A lot of people tell me, actually more than a third of my readers tell me they do like to listen to my books on audio. And of course, you
Right.
can listen to it faster. So, I always like to
That's
put it
right.
on
Yes.
fast speed, and so you're driving or what have you. And
Yeah.
so that would be the one, Power Habits, very simply because it really gives you the big picture of what
Mm-hmm.
I teach and the results that it gets for people. And, it is very, very hands-on. There's exercises, there's fill in the blanks. And it's, like I said, that's the one that started Charles, and 1.8 million later, boom. I mean, pretty happy.
Yes, I would imagine so. Well, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today and sharing not just what you've created, but what you accomplished within your own self and recovering from the point of not even wanting to live on the planet anymore to what you've built is remarkable and inspiring. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with all of us. And if anyone is listening to this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, you can contact and reach out to Dr. Noah St. John in the description wherever you're consuming it. And I hope you'll come back and join us for another episode of The Inner Estate. So, Dr. Noah, any final thoughts?
I mean, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope we can do it again soon.
That would be great. I would love that. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.